You know, that final step in building a classic Tamiya RC car. Carefully applying those decals from that, well, that often intimidating sheet. It's almost a ritual.
It really is a defining moment for the build.
Exactly. But then, somewhere along the line, things changed. Tamiya started including pre-cut decals. When did that actually happen? And, why is it such a big deal? That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it seems like a small thing, doesn't it? But it's actually a really significant shift in the whole building experience. For decades, Tamiya kits meant you had to meticulously cut out every single decal.
Oh, I remember. A sharp knife and a steady hand were crucial.
Absolutely. It could totally make or break how the finished model looked. So this move to pre-cut decals, it was a huge convenience boost. But it wasn't like flicking a switch. It was slow, gradual, often kind of slipped in without much fanfare.
Right. And thinking about that manual cutting legacy, Tamiya decals were always known for being, well, pretty thick, really durable. Not like those super thin water slide ones that just poof, tear if you look at them wrong.
True, they were robust. But that thickness, it brought its own headaches, didn't it?
Definitely. That silvering effect, where you get air trapped under the clear film.
Oh yeah, the dreaded silvering. And just wrestling them onto curved surfaces smoothly, getting that perfect painted-on look meant you had to trim so close to the color, get rid of all that extra clear film. It was a real craft.
People had all sorts of tricks, didn't they? Like using a drop of dish soap and water to slide them around, or even using those model-making solutions like microsol and set.
Yeah. The dedication was real. And, this challenge, this frustration sometimes, it actually fueled a whole aftermarket scene. Companies like MCI Racing popped up, and they specifically advertised pre-cut decal options.
Showing there was definitely demand that Tamiya maybe wasn't meeting quickly enough.
Exactly. The market was kind of sending a signal there.
So what finally pushed Tamiya to start doing it themselves? Was there a particular trigger?
Well, it seems pretty directly linked to their big re-release program, the one that really started kicking off around the year 2000.
Right, bringing back all those classic 70s and 80s kits that people were nostalgic for.
Yeah, but those re-releases, or re-res as people call them, they were almost never exact copies of the originals. Tamiya often made these silent changes.
Like new kit numbers, right?
Yeah.
The original Frog was 58041, but the re-release was 58354.
Precisely. And updating things like swapping out the old, clunky mechanical speed controllers for modern electronic ones, the ESCs, and of course the famous sponsor logo changes.
Oh, yes, the fake sponsors, like Bright instead of the original logos, probably because of licensing costs or issues.
Exactly. So rolling out pre-cut decals, often without a big announcement, fits right into that pattern of sort of quiet, incremental modernization.
Okay, that makes sense. It wasn't a revolution, more of an evolution slipped into the process.
It really does seem that way. There was no official start date memo. The main thing was how inconsistent it was at first.
So can we actually pinpoint a year when this really started to appear? A turning point.
All the evidence, talking to builders, looking at kit histories, it strongly points towards 2005.
2005. Okay. Are there specific kits from that year we know had them?
Yes. Definitely. The re-releases of the Tamiya Lunchbox, that's Kit 58347, and the Grasshopper, Kit 58346, both came out in 2005. And it's widely confirmed those included pre-cut decal sheets. Those are probably the earliest, most solid examples.
Okay, Lunchbox and Grasshopper in '05. But you mentioned inconsistency.
Right, and here's the crucial bit. The Frog re-release, Kit 58354, also came out in 2005. But it didn't get the pre-cut treatment. It still had the traditional sheet you had to cut yourself.
Wow. Okay, so same year, different approach depending on the kit. That really shows it was selective.
Exactly. It wasn't a universal change across the board, not right away.
So was there a pattern? Did certain types of kits get the pre-cut decals first?
It seems so. There appears to be a strong connection to Tamiya's then-new DTO2 chassis platform, which also launched around that time. Kits based on that chassis, like the Tamiya Sandviper Kit 58374, seem to have consistently come with pre-cut decals. In fact, the Sandviper shared its decal part number with the Fighter Buggy SV, another DTO2.
Interesting. So maybe they targeted the more fun or beginner-friendly models first.
Oh, looks like the strategy, yeah. The Lunchbox, the Grasshopper, the Sandviper, these are often seen as entry-level or just bash-around fun kits. Making the decal step easier would lower the barrier to entry, make the build less intimidating for newcomers.
While maybe the more quote-unquote serious kits, like the Frog, maybe aimed at returning builders or racers, kept the traditional challenge.
That seems to be the logic, yes. Keep the craft element for the purists or more experienced builders, add convenience for the beginners.
So how did the modelers themselves react? This must have sparked some debate, right? Convenience versus, well, craft.
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely two camps, maybe more. On one side, you have loads of people who see pre-cut decals as a total godsend.
She's a ton of time, I bet.
Huge time saver, and it reduces the chance of messing up, slicing into the color or leaving ragged edges. It just makes that final stage much more accessible, regardless of your skill level with a craft dive.
But then you got the other side. Now, purists, maybe.
Yeah, you could call them that. Or just people who really value the traditional process. They often argue that they can get a better, cleaner finish by cutting the decals themselves, trimming that clear film really close to the color edge for that truly painted-on look.
And maybe some skepticism about factory cutting quality. Like, what if the cuts are slightly off-register?
Exactly. Concerns about quality control do come up. And for some builders, let's be honest, the meticulous process, the concentration, carefully cutting each decal, that is part of the enjoyment. It's part of the craft itself.
Taking that away feels like losing something.
For some, yes, it's removing a skill element from the build.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The core finding seems to be, Tamiya started phasing in precut decals around 2005.
Yep, around 2005. But it was very selective at first, inconsistent, and often seemed targeted towards those more beginner-friendly or fun kits initially.
That's the essence of our deep dive today. So for you, the listener, if you're buying a Tamiya kit, especially re-release, and you care about this,
check the box or the online product description carefully. Sometimes it'll explicitly say pre-cut decals.
right? Or do a quick search online. Look for build reviews on YouTube or forums. Check customer comments on retail sites. People often mention if the decals were pre-cut or not. Like, you see folks confirming the Ford Bronco 1973 body parts set has them now.
And if the kit you want doesn't have them, and you really don't fancy cutting them out yourself.
Remember that aftermarket. Companies like MCI and others offer fantastic, high-quality reproduction decals, often pre-cut, for tons of Tamiya models.
So you've got options. Which brings us to maybe a final thought.
Yeah, this whole shift, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does embracing this convenience, this ease of use, somehow diminish the art or the craft of model building?
Or does it simply open the door wider, make the hobby more welcoming for more people, and maybe help ensure its future by bringing new enthusiasts in?
Something for you to think about next time you're faced with that Tamiya decal sheet, pre-cut or not.